welcome back to another video. Today is going to be my Q&A question and answer. So we're going to see what you guys asked and I'm going to answer the questions. I have 8 questions. I've got them in order, pretty much what they were asked in. There's slight differences, but not really. And so yeah, this is going to cover things like what is depression, and many interesting, how to stop smoking, what causes dementia, developmental mental illness, like there's all sorts in this, alcohol addiction. So let's just crack on. Oh, sorry, my dog wants to say hi. Hi, come on up then. No? Okay, suit yourself. So, we're going to start with number 1, which is what is depression in details? And this is from Marco Buzzi Franzoso, which, by the way, amazing name. Like, I love your name so much. That is brilliant. There, I've got to say, some good names in today. We've got some good names. So yeah, what is depression in details? Basically, psychiatry defines it as a mental condition characterised by feelings of severe despondency, dejection, also feelings of inadequacy, guilt, often accompanied kind of by a lack of energy, a disturbance of wanting to eat, so your appetite, your sleep. There's a lot of issues that it causes, like a decreased interest in life, the hobbies and the activities that you once found pleasure in. It can affect everything. The way I describe depression to people that haven't had it, that know the Harry Potter series, I class it as like a dementor. It comes, it's scary, it takes everything that's good out of your life, or in your mind at least, and out of you, and it just leaves you this empty, hopeless, hollow shell. And I'm not saying that in a negative way about people with depression, I'm just saying that's how it makes you feel. I know when I'm depressed, I don't enjoy anything, I don't really feel any happiness anymore, it's just all one dreary crap. I don't know. You know, you don't enjoy the simple things, you don't enjoy food, you don't enjoy drinks, you don't really want to go out and see your friends, you don't want to go out and exercise, you don't want to do anything positive because it takes so much effort to just get up and be awake through the day. Doing anything extra can be too much sometimes. So to me, anyone who just gets out of bed, it doesn't matter whether you get dressed, it doesn't matter whether you do anything else, if you get out of bed in the morning when you're depressed, good on you. Like, it's hard. It's really hard. You wake up and you're like, I don't want to face the world. If I keep my eyes shut, maybe I can pretend it doesn't exist and it's not out there. Like, that's what I do anyway. I don't like thinking about it on the morning when I wake up and I'm like, yeah, I've got to face another day, I've got to face people, I've got to get up, I've got to do stuff, I've got to put a mask on to get through the day. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. Having depression is tiring enough. It sucks all your energy out of you anyway. Never mind then when you've lost all motivation, all hope, all kind of sense of peace and joy. It's awful. So it's kind of not so much in details, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to get at. And yeah, so if you know Harry Potter series, think of it as like a dementor. It comes, it takes everything that is positive and it leaves you empty in a way. Yeah, so number 2, what is dementia? Sorry, what causes dementia? And this is from Little Mouse 78. Thank you for your question. Dementia is usually, from what I can figure out, caused by like a degenerative brain matter, all cells in your brain. So basically, like, your brain cells are dying. That's usually what causes dementia. This can be caused from something like hypoxia or apoxia, which is too much or too little of oxygen to the brain. That can have an impact. It's also things like head injuries, hormone imbalances, I think, can cause it. Let me just look. Infections in your body. There's a lot of stuff that can cause treatable dementia, but there's also a lot of things that cause untreatable dementia. Well, actually, there's 2 things that cause untreatable dementia. This is Alzheimer's, which is the loss of nerve cells in the brain, and no one really knows why it does it or how to stop it. And the second is something like an oxygen issue with your brain, may be caused by a series of small strokes that has built up over time and caused brain cell death and things like that. So there are 2 things that you can't treat if you get dementia. There are some things you can treat, like I said. Like hormone imbalances, if your thyroid is off, some thyroid issues can cause dementia in people, or dementia-like symptoms, I should say, maybe. It can be caused by like infections, sickness, HIV, AIDS, syphilis. There's a lot of stuff that can cause it. And what is dementia? So we'll talk about that very briefly. Basically, from what I know, and what I've read, dementia is kind of an illness that affects every aspect of the person's personality. So it affects their thought behaviours and their patterns, the way they see the world, the way they perceive the world. Sorry, I don't know if I said that right. The way they perceive and see the world. There we go. And their memories, like personality, everything just gets muddied, I guess. They go back into memories from a long time ago and don't realise when it is in time now. They will kind of almost revert back, usually to not a childlike state, but a younger adult state. Maybe sometimes teenagers, sometimes kind of between like maybe 18 to 30 odd. That seems to be the ages that people go back to in their life. My grand's actually got dementia or Alzheimer's. I think it's Alzheimer's. She's 97, 98 in May. Wow. And she was very mentally sharp, like really mentally sharp, scarily so, until maybe only 6-7 months ago. And then suddenly her memory was going. She was saying, I can't cope. And it went from her ringing my dad and being like, I need help, I need help, I need help, to suddenly she's like, I don't need your help, I'm fine. And yet she wasn't fine. And that was when we could tell there was an issue, because she'd gone from always being like, I need you to come over here, I need you to do this for me, to suddenly being like, no, don't come over, I don't want any help, I'm okay. And that is usually quite a sign that someone has got further into their illness, in mental health especially, because they're in it. They don't realise that they're ill, they don't realise they need help, and because of that they reject that help. Or they find it almost an insult to be offered help, like, I'm fine, what are you offering me that for? That kind of attitude. So yeah, I hope that answered your question, Little Mouse 78. So we have number 3, are many interesting? Now this is an interesting question. I don't really have a lot to say on it because I've kind of got 2 thought patterns on it. And this is from Chiara Francesconi, which again, amazing name, and I hope I didn't butcher it. I might have. Chiara, I hope I got it right, I'm sorry. So I have 2 kind of ideas on this. Number 1, is it interesting? Yes, very. Learning how the brain defends itself against trauma like dissociation and PTSD is amazing. The fact the brain can split off into different people with completely different ideas and beliefs and views on the world, and likes and dislikes, and the words they use and their mannerisms. Like, I know in my dissociation, they're just different people. I mean, they're different ages to me, they're different sexes. Sometimes I've got like 2 guys, so it's confusing is the word. But interesting also, definitely. And even say things like depression, just seeing how a mental illness can take everything from a person in terms of their positive emotions, their hope, their beliefs about themselves that are good, their self-esteem, their self-worth, all of that. But then I'd also say, am any interesting? No. Should it be seen as interesting in a way? Like, is that making light of it almost? I don't really know. I kind of don't think so, but I wouldn't want to be like, yeah, mental health is really interesting, and just be looking at it from that focal point. Because to me, that's kind of taking advantage. I don't really know what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I hope you guys know better than me, because I can't get that out. Sorry about that. My camera decided to fling itself off the tripod, which is a little odd. Yeah, it went flying. So, let's carry on. So we're on number 4, which is How to Stop Smoking from Edgar Watson. Yeah, so ironic was what I was saying basically before my camera decided to go on the vacation itself. Basically, as I was saying, like, patches are very useful. They stop my cravings pretty much completely. There were some times when they'd kind of break through. I'd have some of the gum, or like I'd just try and distract myself, and that worked pretty well. There's also obviously vaping machines, like, you know, there's all sorts of liquids, so you'll find something you like the taste of. There's different strengths, so you can bring yourself down gradually from like a high nicotine to a low nicotine to then none. That takes some time. It's also like, you know, quitting smoking, it's not just going to happen overnight. You're going to have to do it in little bits usually. I've always been one to just stop completely, but I must say I find the benefit now in reducing, which I've never really been able to do before. The way I found to do that is have a set amount a day, and then once you have run out, you've run out. It's easier if you don't have any more in the house or wherever you live around, because you can always just go, it's just one, I'll have one more. So if there's some way that you could kind of have, you could have some, but you wouldn't have all of it, that's pretty much a good idea to start with. Also replacing it with something, like, this is the big thing, is replacing it. This is how to beat any addiction, I think, is to find something positive and safe to replace it with. And that is not easy. All my habits that I use to cope are pretty much negative. I don't think I have really any safe or positive ones, like, you know, self-harm, drugs, possible suicide ideation. I guess that can be a comfort in a way. Like, I don't know, you've got to find something that you can switch it in with. So for me, a long time ago, when I got clean, and it lasted the longest I've been, including off cigarettes completely as well, no alcohol, no tea and coffee, absolutely nothing, I found the easiest thing for me to replace it with was prayer. And I know that if you haven't got a faith, that's not really an option for you. But that is just me being honest about mine. That was how I could still have a craving, but I wasn't thinking about having a smoke. I was thinking about kind of praying about it, and then, you know, asking for a bit of relief, or asking for peace, or asking just for a bit of strength. And whether it was a distraction that helped, I don't know, but the fact that just getting on my knees and talking to God honestly and being like, yo, I need help, that was like a massive help to me. And as I say, the patches were great as well, but you know, everyone's different, everyone's got different ways of coping. But some things that you could replace it with that are positive, so like I did write some down. So there's like reading. Every time you have a craving, pick up your favourite book and read like a chapter. It'll be amazing how fast you get through the book, trust me. You know, controlling your diet. So because if you quit smoking, your appetite's going to increase again, you need to kind of have a safe thing that you can eat that's going to fill you up, but isn't going to make you pile on the weight, which is something I suck at. So kind of, I don't want to say like vegetables because that's really boring, but find a meal that you like, that you can cook or make or prepare pretty quickly. And then maybe whenever you get a craving, instead of having a cigarette, maybe eat that thing, or just a little bit of it. Or there's things like going for a jog every time you get a craving, and getting the physical sensation of the urge in your kind of body out onto the pavement. You're running it out, you're getting it out of your system. Another thing obviously is like the gym, swimming, that kind of thing, horse riding, even things like extreme sports like skateboarding, riding a bike, riding a scooter, going rock climbing, like going hiking, whatever you want to do, something that you can do when you have a craving that you think, yeah, I can do that. It's easy enough for me to have that thing accessible, or have a few things is probably better. But you can kind of rotate around depending on where you are, who you're with, what you need to do. Some other things like yoga, a martial art, meditation. There's a lot of stuff you can do. You could do research, find some topics that you're really interested in, and every time you have a craving, read something up on it. It's amazing, again, how fast you'll learn, trust me. Yeah, so that's number 4. Thank you. Okay, so number 5. I want to learn more about manic depressive psychosis. And this is from Anthony Thayer. I hope I got your name right. Thank you for your question. So I think first the key thing to do is define psychosis, because that's kind of the key part of this. I am going to talk a little on bipolar affective disorder, which is basically bipolar disorder, in the next question. So I'm not really going to talk about the manic side of this in this question. I will talk about that in the next one. But I want to maybe focus more on the psychotic symptoms, but how they interact with the manic depressive side. So first, psychosis is classed as a disconnected view of reality. It can include hallucinations, whether auditory, visual, somatic. So auditory is what you hear, visual obviously is what you see, and somatic is what you feel. Sense, taste, there's a lot of stuff to it. I sometimes get sensations like someone's poking me, like that, but usually on my back, and that just creeps me out because there's no one there. But it's so vivid, you know, it really feels like someone just jabbing at me, like it's bizarre. And that used to really scare me, actually, because I was adamant there was someone in the room with me that I just couldn't see. It wasn't like, oh, this is a hallucination, you know, it's just my brain playing the trick on me. It was just like, shit, there's someone here and I don't know where they are, what they're doing, or why they're doing this. Like, it was awful. More psychotic symptoms, things like delusions, false beliefs, basically, whether grandiose beliefs, maybe thinking I'm God, or I'm Jesus, or I'm related to royalty, whatever. It's basically a grandiose belief is something like making yourself seem very important. Everyone's important, but you know what I mean, like, you know, oh, I'm famous, I'm rich, the royalty know me, they love me, they're going to break in with the SAS. Like, I've heard that one on award, and that was brilliant. I quite like that. I really wish the SAS had broken in. That would have made my day. I think they made everyone's day, but yeah, that would have been cool. So carrying on, psychotic symptoms still, disturbed thoughts, so like thought patterns can be a bit disjointed. There's something called word salad, which is where you're talking to a person with a psychotic symptom and they are talking back to you, but you don't understand the links between the words. It's word salad, it's all mixed up, it's jumbled. And so you might ask about, would you like to eat an orange? And they could go on about, oh, yeah, I like traffic lights, but I don't like the green light. And then they go on to another. So basically, they've gone from orange to a traffic light, and then they've gone to the green light, and then they could go to like a green screen. Oh yeah, I like action movies. Do you like action movies? But it's not even that connected. It's much more disjointed, so you can't follow the links. That's a really interesting thing. Personally, as someone who's done it every now and then, like very rarely, I think, there's always a link there, but my brain was going so fast that I couldn't explain the link fast enough in words as I was going in my head. And that kind of meant that people really didn't understand what I was on about. So, yeah, that's an issue. So, basically, the psychotic symptoms relating to the bipolar, or the manic depressive side, is if you're manic, you may get more grandiose beliefs. You might, those are the thoughts like, I'm royalty, I'm famous, I'm rich, I have powers, I've got superpowers, I can read thoughts, or I can fly, or I can turn invisible, or like whatever. And yeah, if you're in a depressive stage of your bipolar, it may be more like a paranoid belief that there's someone out to hurt you, that there's a plot to kill you or to defame you. It could be that you've done something wrong that you don't remember, but you know you've done something wrong and you think you're going to be in trouble, and that is just another delusion. That person hasn't done anything that's going to get them in trouble, but they truly believe they have. They fear like police action. They're worried about getting in trouble. They're worried about telling people I've done something but I don't know what I've done. Like it can be a very scary thing. And so now we're going to move on to question 6, which is linked, which is what is bipolar affective disorder? This is from Jerome Adkins. Thank you very much for your question. So there's 2 types of bipolar basically. It's also known as manic depression. Sorry, I can't even talk. It's also known as manic depression. It's basically manic depression, or being bipolar, is having a very high mood and a very low mood and jumping between them. So it's not like that and then like that. It's literally just bang, up, bang. The moods or the mania and the depression can last from kind of several weeks to months at max. And it is exhausting being manic. I've only ever been hypermanic, and I can say how exhausting that was when I came out of it and I crashed. And I'm not even bipolar, so I really feel for anyone with this illness. It's a very hard thing to handle, because when you're manic, you make decisions that you wouldn't normally make. You might spend money you don't have, you might get loans, you might... because the common thing is you get a lot of ideas, you get a lot of creative things that you want to do, you make a lot of plans. And as you try and make each plan happen, you jump from one to another, because when you're manic, you're very easily distracted. You go from one topic to another without ever really finishing one thing. And then if you're, say, if you say to your boyfriend, I want to get married, let's have kids, let's move in together. And then you come out your manic mood and you're depressed, and then you're like, I really want to be alone. Like, you can make bad decisions when you're manic, basically. Or decisions that you would normally put more thought into, and yet you did it quite impulsively because you're in a manic phase. The depressive mood, again, like we talked about depression earlier, those kind of symptoms, lack of appetite, lack of sleep, lack of energy, being suicidal possibly, maybe some self-harm, some very low self-esteem, self-worth, all of that, basically, but just, I don't know, just, yeah, that. So, thank you for your question, Jerome Adkins. It's interesting that your name is Adkins. So, number 7. Who is at risk for mental disorders? And this is from Jose, or Josie, I'm sorry, I don't know, Bean Blossom, which is another amazing name. I really want the last name Bean Blossom. That could be my new Facebook name. I like it. Thank you. Yeah, but on all seriousness, thank you for your question. Basically, who is at a risk group? Who is a risk group for mental health? And I'm going to say everyone, because there is not a certain type of person that is immune to mental health issues. No one. Anyone could get it if the right combination of factors in their life added up. The thing is, there are people that are more at risk, but I wanted to get the point across that basically anyone can become ill, anyone can become depressed, anyone can become psychotic, anyone can have anything happen to them. None of us are immune, basically. But yes, there are some connecting patterns that link certain things to mental illness more often. So there's obviously like the genetic side, which is if you have a parent or a sibling with a mental illness, you're more likely to get it. With a twin, I believe it's something like 80% that you will get the same illness, which is insane. Yeah, so that's a big factor. There's usually things that happen, like it will happen around the same time. So puberty is usually when it'll kick in. So kind of between 13 to like 18 is usually when most mental illnesses will show themselves or start to develop. It might just be when the symptoms are more noticed, maybe, because as you grow older, your actions are maybe a bit more extreme as a young kid. I don't really know. But yeah, so puberty is usually when it'll hit, that kind of age. So it is usually the teenage years, which are bad enough as they are. So yeah, some things that can cause it or bring it on, like trauma, a loss, whether a death in the family or a pet or a friend or anything like that, or another form of loss. A relationship ending, a job ending, that kind of thing. Any form of abuse, doesn't matter what type, is a massive risk factor for mental health, especially things like PTSD, dissociation and depression. Even things like BPD as well, borderline personality disorder, has a link to abuse. Other things like being bullied, home problems, like problems at home, you might be getting picked on by a sibling, or you might feel like your sibling is viewed more positively than you. Whatever it is, it could be violence at home, it could be drug addiction at home, insomnia can cause it, head injuries can cause mental illness. There's all sorts. Financial problems, stress, divorce, chronic illness, chronic pain, high pressure on you, perceived or real, doesn't really matter. Whether you're struggling at school or work, losing your job, substance use during your mother's pregnancy. Like, there's a lot of stuff that can be a contributing factor to this, definitely. But yeah, I think the key point I want to make is that anyone can become unwell in whatever way. I don't think you ever really get to a certain age where you can go, yeah, I'm never going to get unwell. Especially when there's things like, dementia and Alzheimer's as well, that does tend to affect people in the older years. But, no one's immune to becoming depressed. Like, if the right combination of factors change in your life, you could lose your job, so your wife leaves you, and then she takes the kids and the house and the car, and then you're living in a one-bedroom bedsit, getting drunk every night. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's so easy for one thing to have a knock-on effect that just changes your entire life. So, yeah, just think about that. I did find something called the 5 warning signs of mental health, which I thought was kind of cool. I didn't know this existed. So I thought I'd quickly go through them. So number 1 is a change in personality. So whether their character changes, they're doing things that is unusual for them, saying things that isn't normally characteristic of them. Number 2, uncharacteristic anger, anxiety or moodiness. So whether they're angry at you, or they're being hostile, or they're being aggressive, or they're snappy. Or even just have a low mood. Not just, but yeah, have a low mood. Number 3, social kind of isolation, maybe withdrawal, so not seeing friends as much, not wanting to spend as much time with the family, that kind of thing. Number 4, lack of self-care or risky behaviours. So this is going back to kind of the manic depressive thing, is that you do things that you wouldn't normally do. And that can be like a massive warning sign, so that's something to think of. And number 5 is hopelessness or feeling overwhelmed, which is a huge one to me. I think the feeling I struggle with, or what I struggle with in my mental health, is becoming overwhelmed. Like, there's so much going on. I've got my voices, I've got my dissociation, I've got like distress, anxiety, PTSD, flashbacks, nightmares. Like, there's so much that goes on, and it just gets so overwhelming that you can't focus on anything, and you can't handle even one more tiny little thing. So someone talking to you can just be like grating in your head, and you have to go, do you mind being quiet? And I feel really rude when I have to say that, but sometimes I just can't hack any more stimulation around me. Like, I just need as quiet as I can get it, like as calm as I can get it. So that's a big warning sign, is someone becoming overwhelmed in a situation maybe they wouldn't become overwhelmed in normally, especially. Sorry about that, my dad called. So, moving on, number 8 is, what do you think about alcohol addiction? And this is from Jerome Walker. Thank you for your question, Jerome. I think, personally, it's probably one of the worst addictions to have. And this is for a few reasons. So, number 1 is, drinking is so socially acceptable. you know, say the two guys get together, they just meet, they want to get friends, so they'll go for a pint. Like, it's a natural thing to say, do you want to go for a pint? We'll have a cup, like, we'll have a brew, and have a chat over a drink. And if you're an alcoholic, you can't really, well, you can, but it's really hard to go to a pub, see other people drinking, and then not drink yourself. I know a lot of alcoholics, or I know some alcoholics at least, who have, they've had, like, friends have a party, say at a pub for their birthday or their wedding or whatever. They want to go to the party, but they're worried about the drinking. So the best thing to do is come up with a plan. So they plan, say, something to say if someone says, do you want a drink? Instead of saying, no, I don't drink, and kind of drawing attention to it, you could be like, oh, yeah, Coke could be great, please, no ice, and just keep it casual. People aren't going to go, oh, you're not drinking. And even if they do, you can go, nah, got work tomorrow, something like that. Come up with a response that you're going to say if someone offers you a drink. Especially, say, if someone comes up to you with a drink in their hand and goes, here you go. It's good to plan and have something in your mind that you're going to do at that point. Another thing is to kind of maybe have someone that knows where you're going, knows that you might need to ring and have a chat, and you can kind of have a plan with them as well about, like, look, this is what helps me stay focused, this is why my sobriety means so much to me, and this is why I want to keep my sobriety. And that's a really key thing to even maybe write down, because if it's physical, you've got a reminder, it keeps it more real, and just put the reasons why you want to be sober and why you don't want to drink. Maybe like the pros and cons, the problems it's caused you, the trouble you've got in because of it, like maybe the health issues, the mental side to it, the money draining. There's a lot of issues to addiction, and it does help to write them down and look at them and go, yeah, actually, I think I don't want to use now. Like, this has given me something that I can focus on and look at, and yeah, whatever. Another thing is, and that I think it's a really one of the worst addictions, is it's everywhere. Alcohol is everywhere. It's advertised on TV, it's advertised at bus stops. You go to any supermarket, there's an alcohol aisle. Doesn't matter how big or small it is, there's always alcohol in a supermarket. There's always alcohol in, like, a food shop, in terms of, say, like, a small supermarket or whatever. Polish shops are known for, like, their strong lager. Anywhere you go, it's kind of haunting you, and I think that must be really hard for people to... You can't avoid it. You just can't avoid it. So you have to come up with a plan in your head, again, similar to, like, going to a party or a pub or whatever, of this is what I'm going to do if I see an advert. I'm going to turn away, walk away, and ring a friend, or I'm going to put a song on my phone and listen to that instead. You've got to have a plan, because if you don't, you're more likely to go, uh-oh, you're more likely to freak out, and you're more likely to then drink or use the drug, or, whatever the addiction is. There are a lot of negative effects of drinking on the body. Now, I'm not going to claim to be a doctor and know all of them, but from what I know, there's things like rotting teeth because of the sugar in the alcohol, the vomiting that you are puking up probably when you're drinking too much or when you're withdrawing maybe. You can need, after a certain time of drinking every day or abusing alcohol, that you need vitamins that your body are just not able to receive naturally anymore, because you've damaged, like, the pathways, basically, in your body, I should say. And so you then have to get these really painful injections. They're usually done in your bum, and I've heard they are very painful. Like, I've been in the dormitory, like, on the curtain separating me between someone and them having it. And yeah, I've heard a lot of screaming, I've heard a lot of yelling, I've heard people, like, biting down on pillows and kind of making, like, a groan. It's not nice. It's not nice. And that can be every week or 2 weeks, I think you're meant to have them. And it's like 2 different injections at one point. So it's not even just like you're having it once. You're going to have 2 injections. Obviously, your bums are going to be really sore afterwards because it's painful. And that then affects, like, your comfort level. And even, especially on a ward, like, you want to be as comfortable as you can be in a place like that. It's the only way to get by, really, is to find those little pieces of comfort. And you can't even sit down or lie down comfortably. Like, that's going to really get to you. Even if you're not on the ward, like, imagine going to bed every night and not being able to lie back because your bum's killing you. It wouldn't be good. Wouldn't be good. Yeah, so it seems like a normal thing. It's encouraged almost, especially in, like, more certain groups of people. So say, like, people at uni, people at college, I don't know, builders, like contractors. It just seems to be like a popular thing with certain groups of people, or like young males mainly, but hey, even young women, like, it's not just a male thing. It's encouraged to get as drunk as you can. It's seen as a fun thing, like a YOLO thing. I can't believe I just said that. Shoot me, please. Even if I said that ironically, I did not want that word to come out of my mouth. Oh, that's not good. My suicidality is now much worse. Like, I hate myself even more. Okay, no, I'm joking. But another thing that I think is really hard about alcohol addiction is how much it affects you. I had a friend who I think was a good guy. He had a lot of issues, he was very troubled. I met him on the ward when he wasn't an alcoholic. This was before he really started abusing alcohol, and he had some psychotic elements, mainly depression. But there were some psychotic elements there. He was suicidal. He had some quite serious attempts on his life where he tried to cut his wrists, and needed like stitches, or like bad stitches, like a lot. And that happened, I think, 2 different occasions. And yet it wasn't any of that that killed him. It was alcohol. He started drinking to cope, which I think is a very normal thing. A lot of people do that. It's not a healthy thing in the way, but it's a normal thing. And as I say, it's almost encouraged. Like, just have a pint after work, mate. You'll feel a lot better. Or have a glass of wine when you get home, love. You'll feel cool. Like, it's a very socially acceptable thing. And anyway, so he drank and drank and drank. And, you know, he was going in and out of hospital a lot. And then next thing I know, he's just disappeared. And then I'm sat in the addiction centre and I see his wife come in. And I'm like, that's weird. Or his ex-wife, I should say. And she sees me and she comes up and she said, did you hear about Mike? And I said, no, what happened? Is he all right? And she said, no, he's dead. And I was like, shit, did he kill himself? And she said, no, it was the alcohol. Yeah, like, that was a shock. I mean, I know it sounds bad, I was kind of expecting him to kill himself. I wasn't expecting the alcohol to kill him. And either way, it's bad, especially because he had 2 younger kids. I don't know how old they are now, but I think one when he died was maybe around 15 and the other might have been 18. They already had issues with drug addiction. He'd smoke with his son, and he'd smoke weed with his son. And so you do worry about the path being continued down the line in the family. But I think they were quite healthy kids in terms of mentally strong. Even when I saw them when they came to visit their dad in hospital, they always kind of had a good face on. Whether that was just a face and it was a mask, I don't know. But they seemed to handle it pretty well. And the mum was such a lovely lady. Really lovely lady. I've still got a little glass heart she gave me when I was on the ward. And I remember her making me promise that I wouldn't cut myself with it. And I'm like, I'm not going to break something someone gives me to self-harm. Like, especially not a little glass heart as a present, like, no. But I understood why she asked. And I've still got it. It's actually in my bedroom right now, in my chest of drawers, with, like, a load of other little bits people have given me. And so, like, you never know who you're having an impact on, because I bet she doesn't really expect me to still have it, to still care about that little glass heart. And I've still got the little note they wrote saying love from Sarah and Mick. Like, yeah, it meant a lot. They kind of looked after me when I was on the ward in a way, you know. They'd make sure I was all right. They'd talk to me if I was around. And I really, really appreciated that, and I still do. Like, they helped me a lot. I'd have been lost without them. And especially with Mick on the ward, like, he was a good laugh. Every time I got a shower and I saw him again, I go, oh, you smell better, mate. He just took the piss out of me. He told me that the pigeons and the squirrels had cameras out on them outside in the trees. And at that point, I fucking believed him. Oh, the dick. Yeah, he was a good guy. He was cool. So this video is in tribute to Mick. Why not? Yeah, hope you're doing alright up there, mate. Look after yourself. And yeah, so basically we have one question left, and this is a big topic. Developmental. Can you say more about this? Michael Cooney, thank you for your question. From what I can gather, what you're asking is about developmental mental disorders. So from what I know, that's kind of including things like Down syndrome, learning disabilities, let's see, Tourette's, fetal alcohol or drug syndrome. I'm just looking at my notes. So basically, a developmental mental disorder, or developmental disorder, in the psychiatric term, is something that affects the development of that person, and also usually their language, their communication, their intelligence. Did I say communication? I mean communication. I don't know if I said that already. I'm sorry. I'll find out in editing. I don't know much about these, to be honest, but it is a very interesting topic, especially how things that the pregnant mother does can really affect the child for their entire life. Like, it's insane. like fetal alcohol and fetal drug syndrome. You know, these babies come out deformed, malnourished, addicted to a substance already, and they've only just been born. They can be withdrawing, in fact, if the mother's not used in a while, and they say they've been in labour a while, there's no heroin there, is there? Or whatever it is, no wine there, like whatever that person uses. And that is really scary in a way, like, because I think a lot of mums just think, oh, it's just a glass of wine, it's just a cigarette, it's just a joint, like whatever it is. It's easy to make excuses in life, and I think we don't always see how much damage our excuses are making. Yeah, I don't know. I think, especially when you're pregnant, you've got to be responsible for that child. Like, they're in you, they're your responsibility. Even the dad, like, yes, they're that child's father, but you're the one it's growing inside. You're the one who has that life to look after with your body. And if you abuse that, like, that's just kind of messed up to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm being harsh. I know the situations that are always, you know, you can't say 100% every situation it's wrong. Because I understand if a woman's in a very bad situation that drug using may be the best thing for their mental health, but it's certainly not the best thing for their child's health. That's kind of what I'm saying. There was actually a study done, this was interesting that I found out, where scientists looked at babies that had these disorders, these developmental disorders, and they noticed that there was 14 new development disorders within 1,000 children. And these weren't caused from genetics or anything at birth. It was completely to do with like a random genetic mutation. They call it a spontaneous genetic mutation. And it just happened. Like, they don't know why, they can't say why or how to stop it or how to change it. It just happened. Yeah, so it isn't 100% genetics in this case, which goes back to what I say about nothing being 100%. I think there's always exceptions to the rule, but yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, thank you for that question, Michael Cooney. I appreciate it. And that's the end of the video. Thank you very much. I want to thank everyone who asked a question, of course. Thank you. And also, what's your name? CNX Lemonx Freak. I'm hoping you mean Lemon Haze. If you do, 420, rock out, mate. Yeah. Some people know what I mean. And yeah, thank you for watching. I'm really glad that you watched this to the end. If you did, thank you. I hope you like and subscribe, and that means the world to me if you do. So yeah, cool. Leave a comment if you want to say hi, if you've got any more questions, whatever. And yeah, stay cool, stay safe. Bye.